Hello and welcome everyone to today's Fairygodboss live webinar. We are excited to have you all join us, and we're going to give folks a few seconds to connect here. Let's go ahead and get started. First, I'd like to introduce myself. I am Priyanka Randhawa. I'm the Vice President of Sales Enablement and Pricing at GXO. Before we do get started, I have a few announcements. This session is going to be recorded and shared via email with all registrants. During the discussion, we would love to hear from you. So let us know if you have any questions and chat them in. And now I am excited to start this event, Elevating the Voices of Women, sponsored by GXO Logistics. For those who do not know, Fairygodboss is the largest career community for women. Millions of women visit this Career Connection job community website all the time to understand how companies treat women and attend virtual events. Today, I have the privilege and honor to be joined by three of my colleagues, Becky Liu, Kim Kyle, and Susie Fraser. So ladies, would you take a moment and introduce yourself? We'd love to hear what's going on in your life personally, professionally, and what your role at GXO is today. So Becky, I'm going to start with you.
Sure. Thanks, Priyanka. Hi, everyone. My name is Becky Liu. I am the HR Talent and Learning Director leading new hire onboarding and training programs for the GXO Americas and Asia Pacific. I'm based in the beautiful city, Charlotte, North Carolina. Very glad to be here with all of you today. So personally, I'm married with an 8-year-old son who keeps me very busy outside of work. So in spare time, I enjoy hiking and doing all sorts of activities with my son, and also catching up with my family and friends locally as well as overseas. I have a lot of family members who are out overseas in a few different countries. So that's about me professionally and personally. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. Susie, please introduce yourself and your role at GXO as well.
Sure. Nice to see all of you guys. I'm so happy and proud to be here with you. My name is Susie Fraser. I am the Senior Director of Operations within the technology vertical of GXO. Too much going on in my personal life for me to share here, but I am really glad to be here with you all today.
All right, Kim, your turn. Introduce yourself and tell us what you do at GXO.
Awesome. Hi, guys. I'm super excited to be here as well. What an amazing venue. Thank you, Fairygodboss, for having us. My name is Kim Kyle. I'm the Senior Vice President of Account Management. Personally, I'm a wife. I'm a mom of 2 kids and a dog, 13 and 15-year-old kids. The dog, I think, is 10. You know, I still think I'm an athlete, though my kids tell me differently. Just because I can still do a cartwheel and play a little tennis, they're like, that does not make you an athlete, Mom. Just, you know, setting some boundaries and some reality. And then professionally, you know, I have a pretty diverse background. I've been in the industry for about 30 years. Not just supply chain, though. Kind of have done all kind of things, but always leading high-performing teams with a couple giants like Target, Amazon, and now GXO, which is just amazing. For the last 7 years, I've been with GXO leading our account management teams, which really drives the relationships with our clients to make sure that we're profitable, both for them and for GXO. Super excited to be here and dive a little deeper into this topic today, Priyanka.
Thank you, Kim. I feel like tennis and cartwheels qualify, but I'm not going to debate with your kids. I have 2 young ones too, so I get it. All right, so thank you all. I'm excited about the discussion today, and for all those tuning in, I would like to remind everyone that we will be answering questions that come directly from all of you. So please submit your questions on the Q&A tab on the right side of your screen. We will do our best to respond as many as we can throughout this event. So, all right, let's get started, ladies. So as you grow your career, how do you ensure that you are lifting other women up as you go along your journey and help elevate their voices? So Susie, I'm going to start with you if that's okay.
Not a problem, Priyanka. And thank you for the question, which is a loaded one. Yeah, it really is. It's really been my practice to choose organizations with cultures that uplift women and all people, which is really important to me. So when I find an organization with core values that align to mine, then I find that naturally I'm able to be an example and be intentional about creating spaces where women's voices are heard.
Thank you. Kim, would you like to add something here?
Yeah, I think this is a really great question. I've always valued, same as Susie, of having organizations that I can see myself in, right? So like, again, the four amazing women on this panel highlight that. So I can see myself within this organization. So I think great point there, Susie. I think the other piece, personally, what I try to do, again, being along the journey for quite a while now, is I try to recognize often, right? Like when I see talent, recognize it, call it out, tell them personally and professionally what amazing jobs they're doing, like managing throughout it, and then continue to broadcast that through the organization. It's no longer about just me. It's about who else can I bring along on that journey. So I do try to really recognize often. Also, I'm a nurturer by nature, right? Like I think I heard most of us were moms and nurture, our family members and others. So I do that within my professional life as well. It's an open door policy. So it's like, come on, come all, I'll help you, I'll mentor, I'll champion, I will bring you lunch. I don't know, whatever it is, but I try to also, kind of have that mentality, because I knew it took people to help me to get where I am today. And I do want to pay that forward.
I cannot agree more. It took a lot of women to get me here today, and I'm thankful to see many around me, including Kim. Right, Kim is around me at work a lot, and I'm grateful for it. So Becky, what about you? What do you think?
So I want to talk about two women in my life. First, my mom, who is the typical Asian tiger mom. So
I get that.
Right. When I grew up, she always told me that I can achieve any accomplishment, rise to who I want to be, even in male-dominated fields, if I put my heart to it and works hard. And then luckily I have encountered my lifetime mentor, who happens to be a successful Asian woman leader in a business, which has reinforced what my mom has taught me when I grew up. So I still remember my mentor when they pushed me and let me know that, Becky, I think you are ready to lead a team. I asked her, that's in my earlier careers, and I asked her, are you sure? As some of the teammates that she was pointing me to lead were experienced men. So she said, of course you can. You shouldn't be afraid of leading a team because of gender or age, right? And she was correct. I not only I could, I also did an exceptional job leading and managing a high-performing team at the time. So I always tell and encourage my female friends and colleagues, don't ever feel that you are limited in what you can do or accomplish just because of gender, race, or any other labels that come with you. So put those aside and focus on what you can do. Work hard at it, and you could rise to whoever you want to be. And then another point I want to make is, because I come from a different ethnic background and English is not my first language, I'm usually more aware of the women who's in a similar situation like I am, right? So I would go out of my ways to further help them by ensuring the management and business partners understand where they might be coming from better, push them to go outside of their comfort zone, and also help for them to realize the big contributions, right, they make for the business and the work that they do.
Thank you. That is actually a great sort of lead on to what I wanted to talk about next, Becky. And I'm going to probably start with you. So just from a day-to-day standpoint in your work life and beyond, what specifically would you do to serve as an ally to women around you? And then what is the best advice you have for all of us to be better allies?
Well, this is a really big question as well, right? So my principle is really simple. Just treat others how they want to be treated, because it's not always easy, as we all like to make assumptions, right? And I'm still working my ways to be better and constantly remind myself to be more curious, ask more questions, and listen more to others' needs versus making assumptions. And I, at work, I create a safe environment for the team so we can openly communicate to each other, be able to share that honest feedback, and feeling safe, feeling safe to vent sometimes, because it's important, right, to have that emotional bonding, regardless of it's your family, friend, or teammates at work. So my advice just comes down to some really basic principles that really apply across the board. First, be kind and be humble. Put yourself in others' shoes more, and just respect and value others' expertise. And then the second is to respect the differences, because a lot of us come from different backgrounds, and has very different experiences. We respect all the differences, but at the meantime, seek out those similarities we also share in common, right? Without feeling the pressure of code switching. And third is be courageous to do the right things and speaking up when noticing something that is problematic.
That is a really great advice, Becky. I cannot agree more. Susie, would you like to add here?
I would, and I want to plus Becky on some of the core essentials, right? It's I think oftentimes they get missed, and there's so simply, but it matters. My career is one that has grown from the ground up. I've in my past life been a temp worker. I've been a material handler, a customer service rep. I think I may have worked at Pizza Hut once, and on, right? And I remember in each phase of my journey, it's not just about what I got from my mentor, but I remember in those phases, some of the things that I lacked, but I had the potential to develop. And years ago, when I was a material handler, I felt I had all the right ideas, the great ideas that could improve efficiencies in the operation. And I would share those ideas with team members and leaders, but I never felt like I had the right listeners to help navigate for effective change. And that stuck with me. So in the operation that I support today, each time I visit a site, I make a conscious effort to spend time speaking with teams from various departments. And my reason for that is because of my own experience. My goal is to listen and to find ways that I can advocate on behalf of those who feel as though they need the right listeners to support them. So I strive to be able to be the managing mentor that encourages everyone to meet their goals. And I understand that it starts with me. So my advice for those wanting to be a better ally would be, would tie back to some of Becky's core values, but for me, it would be to manage with care, to mentor with intent, and to listen with empathy. I think oftentimes we limit ourselves in thinking that you have to hold a certain status in order to be an advocate. But I challenge that way of thinking. I do believe that no matter your position within an organization, you have an opportunity to help someone else, because after all, the key of uplifting others really lies in our hands. And no matter your position within an organization, I think that we can all care. We all can have great intention, and we can all show empathy in some way.
Couldn't agree more. No matter where we are in an organization, it is on us to go out there and help others around us. So thank you for that. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about GXO specifically here. Are there any business resource groups or employee resource groups at GXO that we have? And could you explain a little bit more about them? Kim, I'm going to start with you here.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have BRGs and ERGs here at GXO, and they're phenomenal. Partially, I'm going to say, because of Leticia, who runs it. So she's one of our fabulous leaders here that helps coordinate it. I mean, one of the most uplifting, innovative people I've ever met. I I don't know, what's the Olaf movie? I feel like I'm enveloped by a warm hug by the snowman. Every time I talk to her, it's fabulous. But GXO as a whole values that belonging. Everyone belongs. Everyone has a place. Everyone has a voice, kind of like Susie was saying. And there's a safe and inclusive spot that we try to create so that we can dive deeper into that connection that we all have and want to drive deeper. And so, again, based on that amazing leadership by Leticia and that team, we have some really, really innovative BRGs. I support one. It is around women, which is fantastic. And, you know, the quality of the events, just outstanding, outstanding. We've done like human stories. I mean, it's so moving, so, you know, conversation starting. But again, it's really important to me because I see myself reflected through everyone else that I see throughout the organization. And it makes me have deeper connections to what I'm doing every single day. And then also to just the broader network.
Thank you. And as I'm going through all these comments coming in, Susie, just like to call out that someone chatted in, you are an amazing leader, Susie. Cannot second and agree with that more. But also it was a good reminder to not only just have great ideas, but truly listen. And someone chatted in too. So go Susie, yay. All right. And so coming back to the GXO BRGs and ERGs, Becky, would you like to add your experience at GXO with our BRGs?
Oh my gosh, Kim answered that question so so well. I don't know what else to add, but I just want to echo Kim's comments about our VP for diversity inclusion here at GXO, Leticia. Such a great and warm leader, very inspiring leader. Every time talking to her, I was always pumped and inspired by her. I suppose I will just add a little bit more details in terms of some other work that's underway for our BRG and ERG at GXO. Obviously, you know, we are still on this journey, and we want to be sure every colleague here at GXO can see themselves, right? So the representation is really important in this belonging journey. And so we open up a lot of the BRGs, and some of them are underway in order to serve the diversity well, to honor and appreciate the differences and contributing to the real world business solutions as well, right? And then it basically links back to our GXO 5 values. And I teach those 5 values in our new hire onboarding all the time. So I can please cite them in my dream now. Be safe, be inclusive, make an impact, change the game, and deliver results. Some additional BRGs that Kim mentioned about the women BRG, we also have some other ones that's underway that's going to be established, including Hispanic, netting, leadership excellence, African American backed leaders for leadership excellence, Asian Pacific Leadership Network inspiring, innovative, and inclusive growth and excellence, LGBTQ+ community, women in search of excellence and equity, disabilities, differing abilities empowered and partnered together, etc. So very exciting time for GXO.
All right. Thank you for that, Becky. And couldn't agree more on Leticia. My short story on Leticia is that I had only met her on Teams for the longest time. And then the first time I met her in person was actually at a supply chain leadership event in Chicago. And I realized, oh my gosh, she really is who, you know, we see on Teams, that warm, fuzzy, she hugs you in her words. And really, we are lucky to have her at GXO. Couldn't agree more. So let's talk, you know, switch gears a little here and talk a little about mentorship and sponsorship. They play an important and crucial role in everyone's career advancement, right? And so how has your mentorship impacted your journey? And what steps can organizations take to facilitate meaningful mentorship opportunities? And let's spend some time discussing the difference between mentorship and sponsorship. So Susie, I'm going to start with you. But before I do, I would like to also throw out here that Susie, your team is listening in. and they are letting us know that they are so proud to be part of your operational team. So thank you for all that you do at GXO.
I'm so grateful. Oh, the pleasure is mine. And you know what? When you have a really good team, it's, it makes it really good to lead. So I give that warm hug back to the folks that are listening and my team that's there singing my praise. I sing your praise. So thank you so much for all that you do every day. Really, it's inspiring. And that's what inspires me to want to make sure that I advocate for all of us. So I appreciate that. Going to your question, Priyanka, on mentorship and sponsorship, and I agree with you. I think there are some differences between the two. And for me, a mentor is someone who shares knowledge and experience in my eyes, and a sponsor is someone who actively promotes growth. And in my career, I have found a need for both a mentor and a sponsor. But I understand that they can be one and the same. Right. But my previous mentor has helped me nurture my leadership style. He's helped me cultivate my strategic thinking skills. And he has advocated for my placement, even when I didn't believe that I was truly ready for the next step. But he understood that the best teacher is experience. So I didn't have to be perfect before I got that next role. Right. Experience will teach me what I need to know. And he, advocated on my behalf, knowing that with my existing skills, I would grow into the shoes that I needed to fill, right? So that again stuck with me. But I do believe that each one teach one. And interesting enough, in human nature, we all thrive when we're uplifted in personal and professional spaces with the right support. So speaking on professional development, many companies today offer mentoring programs. So I would say leveraging those mentoring programs and maximizing support that they offer is instrumental. Ways that we can think about our own plans to thrive can include our mentoring conversations, establishing a set of goals that align with placement opportunities, establishing a cadence for frequent mentoring check-ins and progression tracking, which is important, and utilizing skill assessments and development courses with a focus aligned to specific short-term and long-term goals, right? Making sure that key alignment with those goals are there. But I also want to encourage that we are all empowered in our own career. We all have the ability to own our career's potential, and mentoring can take shape in different forms. So whether it's a formal mentoring program offered, or if it's a business relationship that you seek out, be inspired to be uplifted and elevated by identifying supporting partners that you know that you need for your mentoring journey, right? It starts with the ask. So don't be afraid to use your voice and ask that individual, to be a mentor along your journey. You'd be surprised if you just ask.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you for that. And speaking of great mentors we have at GXO, Becky, we have comments coming in for you as well. Becky is a fantastic coach and inspiration. She leads by example, and we love working with her. So thank you, Becky, for your leadership as well at GXO. And then Kim, I'd like to go to you as well with the same question on mentorship and sponsorship. With your tremendous experience, and I know you're mentor to many of us here as well. So what is your perspective on mentorship and sponsorship?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it is like a little fine line. You have to surround yourself with your tribe, but your tribe changes over time. It changes over what your direct goal is. So it does morph, it does evolve. I remember, again, early in my career, we had formal mentor training, and we were then you were paired up with people. What was super great about that was it gave you a framework to say, okay, what do I need to think about internally of what do I need? What am I ready for? Am I ready to have this development? Am I ready to have those candid conversations that I lead? I think, Susie, you made that comment. It's super important that you do and take that time to self-reflect of what do I need? What do I need to, how can someone help me? Where do I want to let them in? Where can I be vulnerable? Where can I be aspirational? And kind of think through kind of what you need and where you're at in your journey. The other thing that I learned around understanding a mentorship, a sponsorship, a champion is, again, that evolving. There are times where it's like, I had the best relationship with my mentor. We will always be lifelong friends, but I had to, like, you know, break up with them as my mentor because we had moved on or we were a different phase. And that's okay. It's perfectly natural. And it's like extremely healthy because your mentor is like, fly, little birdie. I think was actually something that my person said to me once. Was like, fly, fly, you don't need me now. And then they became a champion. So there's different roles and how that involves along your career. And so again, I think taking that moment to self-reflect what you're ready for, what you need, and who can best provide it is kind of like how you can take control of who's in your tribe, what they're doing, what role they play. And again, just being really upfront and honest. Sometimes you go into a mentor relationship and you have a conversation, you have 30 minutes scheduled, you know, once a month, every 3 months, whatever that looks like. Sometimes you just have to put the guardrails up there and being like, hey, this was a really rough month. Can we just talk about X, Y, and Z? I don't want the feedback. I don't want this. I just want you to listen. So also helping frame that conversation makes it much more productive for both individuals so that it can be a really value-added experience.
Thank you. Yes, I definitely remember my fly birdie moment. And sometimes I see that, I mean, I know we all have kids here, but on this panel at least. And, you know, when you're teaching your kid how to ride a bike and that the first time you let go of that bike and then you see them go and eventually someone will fall and that's okay. But that first time I left my son's bike, I was like, all right, it's time to let go. And that I always feel like that at work sometimes too. I'm like, okay, you know, they're here and it's time to let them go. And it's their turn now to shine. So I know like analogies all over the place in my head, but you know, it's how lives intersect at work and personally. But on that, we're going to take an audience from the panel here, and any one of you can take it. The question is, how mentors? Susie, since you're operations, I'm going to start with you.
Can you repeat that question for me, Priyanka?
What advice do you have for people finding mentors and how and where they should find them? Oh,
that's a good one. I think you know,
it's a hard one. You're trying to find the fit. You're trying to find a person. We work virtually, so it gets a little complicated, but.
Yeah. And, you know, I believe, you know, Kim touched on some of this a bit, and so did I, when we talk about really owning, you know, your journey, right? You know what your goals are. And, you know, as all things that we've mentioned here a bit as well, you know, life happens and at times you have to pivot and sometimes your goals pivot as well, right? But you are the one that would be firsthand and have that firsthand knowledge of what that looks like. So I would encourage that individual to seek out, you know, key individuals in the field that you are interested in, individuals that may have, you know, goals that align with yours, right? It's one thing to have a mentor, but you got to make sure that there is an alignment. Otherwise, you know, what are you learning? What are you grasping? Not everything really transfers over, right? There's some base things that will, but not everything does, right? Depending on the industry and everything else. So I would say the first thing is to take stock of what your goals are. The second I would then recommend is to, again, look at key leaders in those industries and areas that are of interest to you and that tie back to your goals. You know, when I started to look for a mentor, when I was early in my career, when I was developing, you know, I went all the way down to certain personal characteristics I wanted to see in my mentor. I wanted that person to, you know, manage with care and be kind and is trustworthy and truthful, in addition to being, you know, knowledgeable about the industry and, you know, the market and, you know, provide tips and tricks on how I can then be, you know, knowledgeable as, you know, the industry changed. And that really helped me to whittle down the list, if you will, of individuals that were of interest to me from, you know, so I started that way. And from there, I then, you know, went another direction and started to see, okay, who do I actually have access to that really embodies a lot of the things that I wrote out for myself, right? And what I wanted to mirror in some of my leadership style and as I developed and that I can learn from. And, behold, at the time, many years ago, but it was the CTO of the organization that I worked for. And I asked him, one day I went to his office, can I talk to you for a minute? And I asked him, I said, these are the things that I recognize, in you as a leader, and I really appreciate and admire, and I would love to, start to develop my own path. And he said yes. And he became my mentor for many years. And so, I would start with those basics, and, for that individual who asked the question and those who are listening. But it starts with that self-awareness, right? You have to start with you and making sure that you understand what it is that you want for yourself. What do you want to embody? And then from there, go on to, making sure that you're pulling resources that really can inspire you in those ways.
Thank you. So what are some of, we're going to go follow up the audience question with one of our questions here. So ladies, what are some effective networking strategies you've used for establishing relationships at work and expanding your network? Becky, I'll start with you here.
Sure. Thanks, Priyanka. Actually, this question is kind of difficult for me because I don't have magic spells for this one. The most effective networking strategies for me are usually through project work and special assignments, especially those projects that allow me to be able to work across teams and functions. So networking to me is not just who you know or who others know me, know my name, but it's more about what skills or strengths that make up my brand that others know best of, right? And to me, this doesn't come easily. It is usually through lots of hard work and dedication to demonstrate. And some of the most robust relationships that I have ever formulated at work are oftentimes rooted from some very difficult and challenging projects that we got the chance to go through that together. So it's not just some sort of reporting structure, right? But actually those concrete tasks and challenges that we were able to tackle and work together. So I personally, I firmly believe in lead by examples or walk the talk. You can't really walk into others' heart unless you are there with them in the battleground. And vice versa. A leader can't truly gain my respect and become my mentor, that's my criteria, without me seeing that that person can lead by examples.
Thank you. Kim, what tips do you have for the audience on effective networking at work?
Yeah, this one is, I think, Becky, you kind of said it well too. This didn't come naturally for me either. I am shy by nature, first and foremost. So shy by nature, to put myself out there was definitely not my comfort zone. But it had to be very deliberate. So, I mean, again, I'll kind of go back to like one of my very first jobs. I was leading a team. Again, shy by nature, I wasn't good at putting myself out there. So there's two things I did. One, I became a waitress because I had to have starter conversations with everyone. Granted, I had a purpose, which is always nice, but it led me to the next piece. Always have a purpose. So when I look for a mentor, it is, again, what do I need in the moment? I did learn from Target. Target had a very nice mentorship program that, again, had like the canned, what kind of questions do you ask your mentor? How do you connect? So I've used that now 25 years later and use it here at GXO too. I'm like, what are my strengths and what are my ops? I know what my opportunities are. And so I typically look for someone not who also has that as a strength. Sometimes that's good, but it comes naturally for them. So for example, if I want to be more detailed oriented in something, et cetera, I'm going to look for someone who had to work at it because typically they have tools, they have tips, they have other ways that they can tell me and help me actually work through that problem. And so that's kind of for me, again, that deliberateness of what I need allows me then to go out to seek out someone to help me with that. The second piece of it is just like we should be scheduling self-care, doing all of those things that we don't usually do for ourselves. I have to schedule time to think about my personal development and what have I done for myself in that space every single month. I have a calendar invite that I think about it. Sometimes I do delete it, not going to lie, because I need this time for a meeting. But, you know, every other month I am actually thinking about that. Who have I reached out to? Typically, I try to do someone within my network and within my GXO family. And then it's also externally throughout that network. It might be as simple as making a LinkedIn connection. It might be just saying, you know, sending a warm and fuzzy note to someone who I haven't talked to in the last few years, months, you know, whatever. But I do make a conscious effort to continue to do that, because it is important to continue to build upon it no matter where you are in your career.
That's really good and practical advice. I have to admit, I have a weekly block on my calendar too. I'd say I'm maybe 40% successful so far. Not a good stat, but it is what it is. Lots of room for improvement on my end too. All right. So all of you ladies, firstly, as I hear all of you talk, I hear some of me too. So this has been really good for me too, personally, going through all of these questions and comments on the side with you as well, as they keep coming in from the audience. So how have you all found your passion and purpose and voice at work? And it's hard as we get into this virtual world and communicate in different through different mediums now. But as you find your own voice at work, as you're in this journey and as senior leaders here, how do you help elevate others' voices at work? And so, Susie, let's start with you.
Yeah, sure. No worries. That is a loaded question. You know, I mentioned a bit about my journey and, you know, different phases of my career earlier on. And, you know, along the journey, I vowed to myself that as I progressed, I would always use my voice when seated at a table. But there is a difference, I find, between speaking just to speak and actually using your voice. And I always want to make sure that I challenge myself to do more than just state the obvious, but bring solutions to the space. So when I do speak, I speak with confidence. I'm a passionate person by nature. And if you're like me, you have to love what you do or you'll stifle your creativity. And so I genuinely love what I do. I love the problem solving. I love the people management and the opportunity to care for them. And at times I do love the chaos that comes with operations. So I find that once you have passion, you'll find it very difficult not to speak up for it. You know, and I also believe that, you know, a leader takes pride in raising the voices of others and advocating on their behalf. So I feel as if it comes naturally, again, if you're passionate about something.
Thank you. Yes, couldn't agree more. My dad loved what he did. And as a kid growing up around him, it was a very aspirational thing to have in life for me. And I consider myself fortunate that I actually ended up, and I don't know if this was deliberate or intentional, or I just got super lucky. But I've always worked in jobs where my job really is to streamline and simplify complex problems into things we can understand. And I love it. And that makes it so much easier. Some days I ask myself if I'm sane, and that's okay. But most days it works. So that I agree with you, Susie. Becky, what about you? What do you think?
I can agree with both of you more, that you got to love what you do first to find that passion. So for me, I am a passionate learning professional. And I came to the United States to pursue further studies in this field, in education. And my major is in instructional design. And ever since then, I have been working in this field. I never changed my career. So I've always been in this field for many years. And the only thing I changed is I worked for a few different corporations. So, but always being a passionate learning professional. So GXO's senior executive team, I believe they truly believe in and lead by examples that the most important asset of our company is our people, right? So the HR talent and learning organization that I belong to is solely focused on our people And my job is their onboarding, training, and in addition, with other teammates within this organization, their career and professional growth within the company. So I feel just naturally empowered and working with a very small but highly efficient group of learning professionals who are just passionate like I am every day. And we are making micro changes to try to make the learning experience a little bit better for our employees who's doing a lot of hard work out there on the floor, but trying to make changes to make their onboarding experience better, their training experience more efficient, right, and effective. So, and over the years of being in the management, I have become more consciously training myself to be more aware of the emotions of others. So I feel like it's quite easy to recognize the emotions of self, but having the ability to recognize, be more aware of others is the skill you could acquire over time with practice. And then, of course, demonstrate more courage to step up and sometimes maybe feeling vulnerable or put myself in a difficult position to help elevate others' voices. I have to say, by no means am I an expert in this field. It's not always easy, but I try my best, and usually it goes well when others can see that I'm being genuine and courageous.
Kim, I know this is an important one, and we all feel so passionate about this because we all want to give back to what we got in our careers too. So Kim, would you like to add here?
Yeah, I think, one, Becky, you are an expert in this field, so just own it, girl. But, it's interesting because, I've had a few jobs along the way, right? Loved some, didn't love the others as much. And I think it is about what's passion, like what brings out your inner passion as well, right? Like, again, I think, Susie, you mentioned leading teams. I've been doing that throughout my whole career because that is where I find that value. I've led teams in assets protection, in supply chains, in finance. And it's, again, that common denominator is kind of leading the teams. It's not always about the job. It's about kind of the tasks, the people, the environment that you surround yourself. So know sometimes that those jobs that you're like, it's just, it sometimes is a means to an end. It might be, you have to grow with skills sometimes. So you take a role that maybe isn't like your passion project, but it's going to develop you and make you stronger once you complete that. So I think also kind of knowing, what you're getting it out of the roles and the different jobs that you're taking can also drive that passion. And then how does that translate to your voice at work? For me, it's kind of that confidence builder. And it also then allows me to be a little bit broader and more wide-based, because again, I've taken the very scenic route to get to my place where I am right now. So it's like I've taken some, step up, step sideways. Oh, I had a detour and take a U-turn over there. And so all of those roles have played a huge, significant impact to where and how I do my job today. And it's been great. Now, it's not the route for everyone, but it allows me to bring, again, I think Becky and Susie, you both talked about it, Priyanka yourself, it's allowed me to bring my authentic self every day. And so when having that voice at the table, that's the thing that rings through. It's authentic. It's truthful. It might not be right, but it's how I think. It's how I feel. It's how, hopefully I inspire some confidence, or I, speak for the voice of our customers, whatever that might be. But again, bringing that authentic self to the work and knowing that everything you've done adds some sort of value, good, bad, amazing, whatever it is, it brings value to, tomorrow, hopefully.
Couldn't agree more. And definitely does, right? All of our experiences at work, outside work, they all make up who we are. It's like a puzzle. All the pieces add up, and the picture is generally a scenic route, which always is better, or mostly is better. All right. And so, Susie, I've got this question enough now from the audience, so I feel like I have to ask you now and not wait any further. But they would like you to repeat your phrase of the managing and lead phrase. So if you could for us, could you repeat that once before we move on? It's a good one. It's a good one. I support the ask.
Guys, I'm rattling it off at the top of my head. I don't know. No, they're staples that I do hold true to me. So I do remember them. But it is manage with care, mentor with intent, and listen with empathy.
All right. Thank you. That is a good one. Could you also email that to me, Susie? Just kidding. All right. So at Fairygodboss, there's a tradition of asking all its panelists the following: what have you observed that has made women not feel very comfortable about bragging or taking ownership of all the amazing things that they do achieve? And knowing that, share with us an accomplishment, personal or professional, of what you're most proud of. And I'm going to rephrase that because I feel like I used a lot of words and I should probably simplify it, right? And so as women, all of us don't always take credit and don't always say things that we are proud of and do on a daily basis, right? I mean, all of us are jugglers here on this panel, right? Working professional, moms, athletes, so on and so forth, right? And so with all that going on, I'm going to ask each of you, what are you most proud of as an accomplishment in your journey here so far? It could be personal or professional. And I can start here, and then I can go to each of you to make this easier. No pressure, Priyanka. I think what I'm most proud of as a professional and a personal is, and I think I've shared this in another GXO forum with Letitia too, is I try my best. My goal always is to be present. And that could be anywhere that I have to be. It could be being a mom to my 8 and almost 6-year-old, a wife. It could be being a leader at work. It was being an analyst years ago. In my head, I'm always going to be an analyst. But whatever that is, I'm most proud of trying my best to be very present and not being distracted by my second screen, by my cell phone, with whatever other things on my list. It's always going to be a work in progress for me, but I try really hard. And so with that, Becky, I'm going to go to you.
Yeah, I was thinking really hard about this one. I do think I have quite some accomplishments, but the one that I'm most proud of.
No kidding, Becky. Come on.
No kidding, right?
So modest.
Not humble on this now. But you know, the one, this may sound a little dense. So here you go, Priyanka. I am a brain damage survivor. So I have been through a pretty major accident when I was 5 years old, and not many people know this. And by the way, I normally don't share this often, but I had brain fracture and hemorrhage. The doctor at the time handed over a death preparation notice for my family. And of course, all of you can imagine what my family has been going through at that time. So doctor pretty much just said, if Becky doesn't wake up the next morning or somehow fall asleep, just be prepared. And I still remember that night, my mom and everybody was around me. They're splashing this cold, icy water on my face with crying voices, asking me, do not go to sleep. And of course, I held myself strong and tough. And of course, I'm still here today, right? Which is amazing by itself. So I'm pretty proud of that, you know, I've been through a near-death moment in my life when I was very young. And a lot of times I attribute this to my perseverance and never give up attitude, or sometimes quote unquote stubbornness at work, right? Which has helped me to achieve and make some accomplishments at work. So yeah, I think to this accident in my life, but you know, proud of myself making through, and associate that with that perseverance and able to demonstrate over and over.
Thank you. You've just taken Superwoman, by the way, to a whole different level, Becky. So, and yes, I obviously I didn't know that about you, but grateful that you are here. Kim, I'm going to go to you next.
Wow, that is super hard to follow, Becky. Yes, same, Priyanka, what you just said, Becky, that's incredible. It's an incredible story, and kudos to you and your family. And oh my goodness, I can't yeah, that's just incredible. I think this question is always hard because, we do often, poo-poo what we've accomplished or what we've done. I know I do. I think about, I sat and thought about this question for a long time. I'm like, oh, I don't know. I've, saved a couple millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars for my clients, for GXO, et cetera. There's lots of big things that I think we've all done. That's why we're here. So that's phenomenal. But we also know that takes a great team. It's never like a one person did it. It's usually a team of people that do it, team of thought process, all of that. So I think, when I thought about what am I most proud of, oftentimes I don't ask for what I want, right? Like I again, put my kids ahead. I put my husband, I put my dog, I put, everyone around me. And I don't ask for what I want, or at least advocate enough for myself. And so in this latest role, I will self-admittedly tell you, I wasn't quite ready to promote. I'd been in my role for maybe about a year, and I was like, oh, there's an opening. I'm going to go tell my boss I want this job. I'm also going to tell him, because I'm, again, a little bit too transparent, I don't know that I'm 100% ready for it. It wasn't like I was like, I'm operating at this level way up here, and I'm like, oh, yes, ready. Check the box. Nope. I went to my boss and I was like, Bill, that's the role I want. I know I'm not quite ready for it, but trust me, I will give everything I've got to be ready for it. And Bill was like, Kim, you're ready. Let's move on. And I got the promotion. And I will tell you, I went home that day and I was like, what did I just do? One, I spoke up and said what I wanted, and I went after it. And I was like, I'm going to throw all caution to the wind. And, and here I am. And so I think, and it was the first time in my career that I actually advocated for myself at that level. Now, obviously I'm like, oh, I'm that person. My work will be my voice. What I've done, what I've accomplished, what my team, that will say it all. It doesn't always, right? Sometimes you have to talk about it. You have to put yourself out there and say, I'm ready. I want this. And darn it, I will do whatever it takes to be fabulous at it. I did it. I was 50 years old the first time I've done that. So I'm telling everyone on this call, do it much sooner. Do it much sooner. Be your own advocate and ask for it. But nonetheless, that's the thing I'm proudest of.
That's a good one too, because as women, and we've read enough about this, and there's enough research that indicates that whenever a job's posted, we all kind of go line by line, compare our resume, kind of like, oh, are we ready for it? No, we're 98% there, but 2% we're not there, right? And a lot of the advice generally that we all give ourselves is that just go for it. You'll figure it out. So I hear you. I hear you, Kim. All right, Susie. Your turn. Tackle those dreams.
Yeah, no, I think each of you ladies touched on, some of the things that I'm most proud of with myself. Our experiences as different as they are. I think we're all, we took away from it, something that really made us stronger, right? And so for me, there's so many, milestones personally and professionally that come to mind for me, including this one. This very moment is a milestone that I would count as one of my greatest accomplishments. My journey, like so many, have not been easy. It still has its challenges to this day, but I keep going. And so if I had to pick one accomplishment to share, I would share the same as Becky's, is to continue to persevere. I will always keep going. I'm not afraid to pivot. I don't count the fails, but I learn from them, and I won't say that there weren't times where I didn't buckle, but there were never times where I just laid down. And that is the only accomplishment that matters to me. And so I do hope that each of you listening, you're inspired to just keep going.
I would like to add, Susie, that I love all your phrases, so you better be emailing me those. All right, so we're almost at time here. So I guess lightning round. We're gonna go quickly on this one, and I'm gonna start with you, Susie. So get ready. And so, what advice would you give your younger self?
Ooh.
Oh, I know that's a loaded one, right? We're gonna end with a loaded one. You're like, okay, no pressure, no pressure.
Oh man. I would say short and sweet, really. I would say, little Susie, be confident, own your superpower, and look around you. Yes, she can. And so, yes, you can.
I love that. Love that. Add that to my email. Thanks. I'm going to keep going down that path. There's a theme here. All right, Becky, what would you tell your younger self?
First of all, I need to put all those Susie phrases into my new hire onboarding training program.
Right. It's a thing. It's a thing.
But well, for me, I'm gonna make it very short as well. First is just be myself, right? And then second, it's okay to fail, and no need to feel ashamed about it. The more important thing is you learn from it, right? As Susie said earlier. The third one is a personal advice for my younger self is just to be even more educated in personal finance and investment and start saving, investing early on.
That's a hard one. I feel like no one could have told my 20-year-old self to save anything. But that is good advice. Kim, I'm going to go to you. What advice?
I'm a product of the 80s. And yes, Susie, I'm going to, thank gosh this was recorded, right? Because it is. I'm like, oh, I like that one. Ooh, I like that one. And I'll take notes because, again, I'm old school. But product of the 80s of wear more sunscreen, the Crisco oil and all that I did back in the day. Woof-da. But own it. Own your thing, right? Own it. Like in my 20s, own it. Whatever. I mean, I was much different in my 20s. So I need to own that space. Now I'm in my 50s. Own my space. Own what I'm all about. It's good enough. It is good enough and probably better than you think, right? And so own it. That was, I mean, really. So, watching my 13-year-old daughter kind of navigate 8th grade and going into high school really brings it back home. Again, with children, it doesn't, whatever. You see that and you're just like, oh, baby, just own it. Own who you are. Soar with your strengths. You're amazing. You're amazing. And just go with it.
Couldn't agree more with all of you here. So thank you so much, Kim, Susie, Becky, for joining us today and sharing advice, laughter, and phrases. As a reminder, we will be sending this recording out along with other resources to learn about opportunities at GXO Logistics. In the meantime, be sure to check out GXO Logistics profile and jobs on Fairygodboss. Also, we'd love to hear your feedback. So to help us improve future events, please head to Typeform. There's going to be a survey in about a minute, and you can take that. So with that, ladies, I'd like to say it's been a personal privilege to be here with all of you. And I have the luxury of working with all of you. So those listening to us, don't be that jealous. Someday you will get to work with all of them, maybe. But today it's me. So with that, thank you, everyone. And thank you for tuning in today. This was fun. Appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.